Okay, well, it says preparing to go live, which means we're probably live now. So, Justin, welcome back to the channel. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Life is good. Happy Wednesday.
Good. Glad to hear it. It is a very happy Wednesday. It's actually sunny here. Sunny 300 days a year in Moses Lake, and
Okay,
we've
well,
seemed to be getting all this, the 65 other days lately. So,
that's
very
funny because
happy
we're
to.
we're not supposed to have rain this whole week, so we got the sun, you got the rain this time.
Yeah, well, finally back to what it's supposed to be. But that's not the topic for today. The topic is what we're working on, deals that we are doing to further build financial freedom, financial stability. What you're pushing to is now, abundance. So let's chat about that. What do you have going on in your world?
My biggest, most pressing one, sometimes it's about scaling up and sometimes it's about wrapping up projects. So for me, I have a development project that it's been like never ending. Like I'm coming up to almost 3 years on it. It's so common that it's just part of my daily life, which is bad. So I'm trying to finish it up, and it's like every time I get to the spot where I'm like, the last person's gonna sign it, some little thing comes up, right? So the last time it was supposed to be updated back on February 9th. Literally, it was just supposed to remove one thing, add one thing. Literally, like two, three, should take 15, 20 minutes. Well, the architect didn't do it correctly. So then it got kicked out. Then we had to do the change, then get back into queue. So fast forward, basically 2 weeks later, then the final guy that's signing off goes, he checks those off saying, "Yep, you're done." But then he finds a new item. He's like, "Oh, I totally forgot to look at the sewer. Now we need a solution for the sewer." So I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So now I've got to call the planning department and the sewer department today to verify what I can build on the lot because it did get upzoned. So it looks like I got to do 4 units. If I have to do 4 units, that means I need a new sewer line, which means I need to uh, sign a waiver saying I'm not going to use this existing sewer line, I'm going to get a new one. So it's one of those where it's like constantly coming up. But now that it got kicked out, I've got to do this work as fast as possible, get it back into queue, so then it gets signed off on it.
When all that's done, what's going to change for you?
The biggest thing is the negative, because I'm paying about 6,000 a month, right? So I'll be able to sell. It's a short plat, so there's two existing houses. Those are going to get sold. At which point the debt will be paid off. Then I'll have a free and clear lot that now it sounds like it's 4 units that I'll be building on it. At which point I may wait for about a year, let the economics, like values increase, rates drop down to where it would make sense to do a build to rent. So that's my end game there. So short term, reduce the drag 6K per month on cash flow. Long term, do a build to rent fourplex.
Are you going to do another project like that again?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't do a short plat per se. If I did a short plat, it'd have to be something that can cash flow or at least break even throughout the process. Because when you start doing these short plats, the amount of work that goes into it, time, money, it just is too much to do for me. I went from one to three. If it was like one going to 10, there's probably like a sweet spot where it makes more sense. Um, Depending on the city you're in, you can do smaller projects. For example, this exact same project, I could have in today's world, I could do a single family and two ADUs on the lot, and I could condoize it. That would take less than 90 days, probably. But when I started the process, that wasn't there, right? Because I started
Right.
in 2023. They were saying in 24, 25, this should be coming up. But I'm like, I need to make a decision on what I can do at the time. So now the time I'm almost done, I could have done the condoizing faster, which is kind of crazy.
What are your next objectives in business as you're navigating some of these deals? Because someone who is where you're at doesn't have to deal with 3 years of BS.
Hmm.
just to do a deal, right? I mean, you could just go do easier deals. Like what is it you are trying to build to?
So now, I mean, now I have all that learning, right? It's between this one in Tacoma and the one in Seattle. I want to do more of these projects, but knowing what I know now, find projects that are more slam dunks, much easier. The other part would be before I was doing 100% where I was doing the entire project. I think as I move forward, I have a couple people that have private money, so I could bring them in as an equity partner versus a debt partner so that the negative cash flow isn't impacting me, and then build the project out and then sell it, take the money, roll it into the next one.
We're getting some hellos in the chat. Luca for Luca, we've got Flavio. Good to see
Flavio,
everybody.
met
Yeah.
Flavio first time
Yeah.
a couple
It's
weeks back.
awesome. Wheeling and dealing is cash at refis, looking for the next deal. So I'm excited to see what he buys. Hopefully, it sounds like he's buying some apartments. So that's something I can relate to.
Nice.
As far as like everything you're doing though, back to that point, like, what is it all for now? Because I
Hmm.
don't imagine that more money is going to make your life significantly better. I mean, it might, but you already got a gym in your office, so it's like it's peak manhood
Yeah,
right there.
exactly. My goal here is, I think it's similar to yours, where I had a lot of units, but all my units probably average age is like 100 years old. So if I can take over the next couple of years, shift it in, like if, when I do this build to rent, stuff's going to be brand new. In theory, like 10 years, I don't have to do anything, kind of set it and forget it. I'm looking for these easier to manage properties that are typically newer in better areas with better tenants, and then shifting back to self-management on those to where it just starts increasing the cash flow. Because right now, like the money's coming in, but I want it to get to, if you're familiar with the term fat fire, where it's like
Hmm.
you could live off of $3,000 a month, right? And then enjoy your life. But if you had $30,000 a month coming in, now you can do a lot more fun stuff. So, because what I want to do is keep doing the traveling that I'm doing, but have a more set it and forget it machine that's less maintenance. Because right now, it's a lot of maintenance trying to keep up with all this stuff. And after coming out of the ORAT 2 weeks ago, I'm set on, at least in Washington, bringing everything back to self-management. Because what I'm seeing is that there's so much work that's going into it, and there's a lot of properties that are not profitable because there's just a lot of expenses coming up. The property manager is not managing it as if it was their P&L. So I'm like, okay, I mean, I could do that myself. I could lose money by myself and not pay somebody is literally what I thought. So I'm like, let me take it back over. Let's get it back to these properties that have not been making money. Either get them back to profitable or sell them, roll that 1031 into something that will be profitable.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing. Getting the more easy to manage rentals. Dion just did a video about the criteria that he looks at before cash flow.
Right.
I love it. Like thinking about what's the turnover going to be like. Yeah, I hate the rapid turnover I have on some of my buildings.
Exactly.
It's not, it's really nice in some respects. Like the flip side of that coin is I can be very proactive in being at market rent. I don't
Hmm.
have to, because with rent control, you're locked in. So if rents start to spike again, like they have in the past in Grant County, if someone leaves, I can just right back up because of the turnover. But it's a lot of work. I'd much rather have a little bit less profitability, but have people that stay for 4 to 6 years than do the turnover and make a little bit more money.
Yeah, and that's like when I'm looking at because I'm analyze the property managers that I'm using. When I look at the property managers, specifically the properties they manage, where no one moves out, I mean it's like set it and forget it, you know. Those are the ones that make money. It's the ones that have been having the high turnover. You lose the rent and then you spend the money to get it back into condition. The tenant base that I have is not exactly friendly with the unit, right? So, the low end, the bare bones is like 2,500, right? Some of these are larger units and it's as high as 12,000. If I have to, you know, if I'm going to reduce, get rid of the carpet and go LVP throughout, it starts really adding up to where, I mean, 12,000 is going to take a couple years of income away, right? So this turnover is becoming more and more my central issue that I got to solve.
Yeah, I've been trying to bulletproof basically my apartments so that I don't have to do a big turn. And now when people leave, it's not a big deal. It like the turn cost is not 5,000 to 7,000. Now it's like $1,000.
Yep.
So
Touch
that
up paint, change locks, whatever, that's easy money, right? And you can do
mhm.
it shorter, right? Instantly you put it back online. You may not have great pictures inside, but at least you can get it listed. Then get it turned in a couple days if it's just touch up paint, locks and stuff like that. And then, if you can get your turn to be shorter as well. So instead of a month, if you can get it in like 2 weeks, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's I think we're both pushing in the same direction. You build the business first, and then you tailor it towards the life you want to live.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's the order. It's hard to do both at the same time unless you just make oodles of money.
Yeah. Which that's like if you look at like I don't know exactly Flavio's portfolio in terms of how he built it, but I think he was very programmatic, similar to Dion, where he didn't just buy, right? He was like, if I'm going to buy, what do I want to buy, and is that gonna do what I want it to do, right? I think for you and I, we just kind of, hey, I can buy this. Let's just buy it, right? Versus saying, do I really want this in the long run? Because when I look back at what I bought, sometimes that was just because I could buy it, I bought it, right?
Yeah, I definitely bought stuff just to buy stuff. It's like, it's been a little while. I'm going to buy these triplexes. I
Right.
legitimately did that. It had been a couple months. And so I was like, all right. And then I bought two triplexes that were on the MLS.
Uh-huh.
Because bad habit. They were great deals,
Hmm.
but they didn't make sense for the portfolio being triplexes after my prior purchase. I think it was a 12plex. It's like it just doesn't add up.
Right.
So some of the other projects I'm working on, not just optimizing the portfolio, optimizing the debt. So
Hmm.
I'm doing some refinances. I'm not sure if you are actively pursuing any of those, but I'm refinancing some of my stuff. I just did a cash out refi. Pulled out a little bit of money, not a whole lot, but it's 6% interest, 25-year AM, and that was the biggest shift. So I was lowering some of my cost of capital. But when you go from a 30-year AM to a 25, even if your interest rate goes down a little bit, your payment doesn't really change. Payment breakdown changes though. So
Right.
it's been kind of fun looking at that. My payment basically stayed the same on a sixplex. I pulled out a little bit of cash, but my principal pay down doubled,
Right. Isn't that kind
which
of
was
crazy? It's
it's
like,
awesome.
yeah, when you think about it, like if we had zero debt, just imagine the amount of money. I mean, if there's no debt, I mean, because like if 25 years from now, right, you'd be, I'm guessing, around 50. You would have hundreds of thousands if you bought nothing more, right? Between appreciation and all that. So it's pretty amazing. Like if you just buy the right stuff and literally do nothing, just let the tenants pay those mortgages down, huge impact on quality of life.
What gets even more interesting is you play with that intentionally. And some people are going to say, well, you can't do that. Like, yeah, you can set parameters and make educated, responsible plays with debt. You can get a lot further than the debt-free route.
Hmm.
I know a lot of guys now that are debt-free, but all of them, hey, I've told them, it's like, hey, I have a path to be debt-free, and I could have like 15 grand a month coming in with no debt. And they're like, that would be stupid.
Yeah,
And so lever up now. And I'm actually looking at doing some interest only loans with some banks, getting interest only periods to maximize the cash flow and hammer some of the more expensive debts elsewhere.
exactly.
So
That's a
rather than
good idea.
amortize every building a little bit, amortize one building a lot and take all
Right.
the amortization. Because if we interest only everything, take all that money and hit one building really hard.
Is that what you got? I think you called it the debt hammer, or maybe that was Christian or something like that. Is that what you call it?
That the debt hammer is different. So basically, let's say that you have this cup, right? And this cup represents the debt. If if I had the amount of money to pay off the mortgage in total, what I'd want to do is I'd want to dump the whole thing and kill the mortgage. Like if the mortgage is the fire and this is the water to put it out, like I'd want to fill this thing up
Hmm.
rather than just put little by little on the fire. And the reason is if I stack up the liquidity, if I have a mortgage of 100 grand, if I chunk it down 5 grand at a time, I don't really have that extra safety net rather than if I just stack the 100 grand on a side account. If I need it, I'll use it. If I don't need it, once I have 100, I'll just whack the mortgage in its entirety. Because what I don't want to do is whack that mortgage down, have a life event, lose the property. It ends up selling for less than it should. And then, my family doesn't get a whole bunch of money, which they should be entitled to. I'd rather than just have a bunch of cash on the side account
Right.
and lose the property. So from a risk management perspective, that's how I look at it is I'd rather stack 100% of the capital to pay it off and then whack the mortgage. So like I have a property I owe $69,000 on, little duplex. And if if I interest only all my loans right now, I'd stack that amount pretty quick and then just pay it off and then move to the next one. And eventually the interest only goes away and it starts to amortize over 25 or 30 years. However, I'd have the new cash flow for not having that mortgage on the $69,000 loan amount. So that's my thought on it.
That's actually what you're describing there. That's what I'm doing right now. So like, I had these four tiny homes I was doing short-term rentals on. In the peak of COVID, they were each one netted $1,000 a month. I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, right? As we've seen more competition come in and less people staying, the average daily rate has gone down and the bookings have gone down to where it's almost basically, if you look at the entire year, it's basically break even. Some months are negative, some are positive. The spring, summer is positive, the winter, fall tends to be negative, right? So I was like, okay, let me just sell off some of these, right? So I sold one off, which is going to pay off the debt that I had on the other three tiny homes. So by doing that, I now it's the debt hammer because it was only I think there's like 20, just over 20,000 left. But it's one of those where it was a short term amortized. My monthly payment on all that is 2,200. So I take 20,000. Now my monthly payments going out is 2,200 less. Right? Okay, and then like you're saying, I'll just stack that up. Then I'll look at the next best thing to pay down, or I should say pay off, to then get my cash flow coming in correctly.
Wait, yeah, love it. We're on the same page.
There's a question from Flavio. He was saying, how are you guys prepared for sewer line repair, or how do you handle those expenses?
The property either pays for it or it doesn't. I don't have a job, so live and die by the rental income or the cash reserve. On my recent ones, I've used cash reserve and I also have a line of credit that's just in place, zero balance, and I don't want to use it. But if I ran out of money and I had to use it, better believe I would.
Right.
So that's what I would do in my shoes.
That's exactly how I am. I'm trying to, because they had these two projects that took down the liquidity. So typically what I'm doing right now depends on the cost of it, right? If you're like less than 10K, I might put on a credit card, pay it down. If it gets to be a larger amount, then I'm the same way. I have like a 100K line of credit bank, US Bank. So if it's a larger one, then I pull it off of there. The rates on those, whether it's credit card, the credit card, the assumption is I'm going to pay it off like 30 to 60 days kind of thing. If it's a line of credit, it might be say 6 months or something for me to pay it off. But my line of credit there is not great rate. So in a perfect world, you have enough reserves to handle all these kind of expenses. It's usually what ends up happening though, and I don't, Cody, you might be the same way. it's like multiple things happen at the same time. Yeah, the sewer just happened, but then I had multiple vacancies at the same time. So now I've got to fix these units up to make the income come back in. And then over here, I've got to fix the sewer issue. Like, you got to do it now because, like, you can't have a non-operating sewer. So even if you have reserve, even if say with your portfolio, a 50K could be gone in like less than a week, right? Just the sewer thing could be 50K. But when you start stacking a few of these things together, it forces you to have bigger and bigger reserves such that you're not having to tap into it. So I'm trying to build back up my reserves so I'm not always pulling off the credit card, paying it back, or a line of credit and then paying it back so that I can, it seems like I'm like going back 2 steps, going forward 2 steps, kind of standing still, right?
Yeah, it's a battle. And once you get there, that's the thing. I've never had proper liquidity. I'm about half of what I need to be
Uh-huh.
today. And what I need to be is like some ridiculous number. I'm
Yeah,
doing the math with because I've got over 8 figures of debt on my portion. That's
yeah,
not, that's net of splits. So I'm half of where I should be and probably a third of where I really want to be.
right,
And so those things pop up, and it's like, bam, I had 40 grand go out in the first 45 days of the month. Unexpected stuff.
right.
So it definitely does happen. But again, to Flavio's point, trying to stack liquidity along the way where you can, not increasing your lifestyle costs a lot, which you don't do. I know that for a fact. You told me what you live on. It's very similar to me. So like not increasing your lifestyle until you really have that liquidity to where you can pay for those things.
Hmm.
Victor asked if I want to try and pay properties in full. Yes, but it won't be by decreasing the debt that I have. So an example, I bought a building for all in cost 150 grand. Stabilized, it's worth about 400. I'm going to get a loan on it for 250 to 300. So if I get a loan for 300, let's say after fees, I get 290. I pay off the 150 cost basis, pull out another 140 grand. If I pull out 140 grand, I increase my debt load 140, I'd take that 140 and maybe I hammer my smallest properties. So I'm
Hmm.
not increasing the overall debt load. I'm just moving leverage from buildings that I own to buildings that I didn't own. So I'm finding new properties that will pay for the debt of my old properties. It's like a debt shuffle. And
Right.
what that does is as long as I have a solid cash flow, maybe not like a massive number on the new property, but I got a good debt coverage. Now all of a sudden I freed up my cash flow from my earlier investments, and the new investments that I didn't own are paying for it. So that's what I'm looking at doing. And that will result in a few paid off properties, which I'll probably put a line of credit on for low leverage just in case I need it. But the goal is again not to tap that because then you're just back in debt.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about there is like when people talk about total portfolio loan to value, right? So you could have a total portfolio loan to value of say 75%, but that could consist of like one property fully paid off and three that have 100% debt, right? So like as you're doing this debt shuffle, and this is something I've been looking at the last couple of years is as you're shifting around that debt, if you can make sure you have some of these properties with low debt, if you ever had to sell something, you'd at least be able to sell something and then extract the value. Because at one point in time, I had a, pretty high leverage on the total portfolio because I had properties I was sometimes getting at 97 to 100% leverage, right? With the seller financing. So what would happen is I have all these properties, but there's just a little bit of amount of equity. So after you have transaction costs, the amount of money you get out of it is not very much.
Mm.
So if you can shift that debt around to where you have some with a higher amount of equity, if you did ultimately have to sell, you can then have the money to put it to whatever you needed the money for. If it was a huge expense or maybe you want to roll into another deal, that then helps you. So looking at total portfolio loan to value is important, but if you can shift it to where some of them have more in there than the others, that definitely helps if you do need to liquidate.
Yeah, agree. And on my stuff, like for next projects, when I'm trying to build the liquidity up or look at shuffling around stuff, the question I ask myself, which has been very beneficial, is what would I have to buy that I could borrow against and not have to pay for?
Right. That's
So that's how I live. Like I bought an RV park a while ago for 373 and got a loan on it for 650.
so you did seller finance at 375, I think, and then went to the bank later and then got a new loan.
No, I got over 100 and whatever percent LTV day one from hard money.
Oh,
And the
okay.
hard money payment was paid for by the rental income because it was like a 5% real deal here in Washington. It was crazy.
Nice.
So, I was able to pull out enough money to do other projects that I needed the money for,
Hmm.
borrow a massive amount of capital because I got a good deal on the front end. It was almost 200% leverage day one, and then utilize that capital to go do other things, and the rents paid for the payment.
That's a great
So,
idea. You're opportunistic on your buys such that you can extract equity effectively day one.
yeah, and being willing to play the game intentionally and not get emotional about it. Like if I could lever up a property to that I'm buying today at 100% LTV, but I still cash flow, I'd do it. If I could go buy $1 million property today, get 1.5 million of debt against it, and have it pay for the debt, like even if I don't cash flow, but at the end of every year, like I have a one debt coverage ratio, I would still do that because that $500,000 of cash I could use to pay down much higher interest rate debts. You just have to look at like, does it get you the end result and not play by the conventional game plan? Because
Right.
leverage is a tool, and if you use it to get what you want, you move ahead faster than those who don't.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah. I like that thought process because like even in that scenario, you have $1 million property, 1.5 valuation, or no, you take a loan out for 1.5 and you're saying you have 1.0 debt coverage. When you get that extra 500K cash when you do that new loan, even if that property had an issue, at least you got the cash there to use short term, whether it's on that property or other properties, to keep you going, right?
Well, and a uh if you got a loan elsewhere, like $500,000 loan, 7%, 30-year AM, your cost of capital on that's 3,300 a month.
Hmm.
So it's like if I could just sign a piece of paper, have it cover itself, and be entitled to an extra 40 grand a year, absolutely I'm going to do that. And then I can use that 40 grand, which I was paying over there, and pay down the cost of capital on the original deal or pay down a different deal. And I have a couple notes still at like 12%. So that'd be 5 grand a
Right.
month. So
Right.
yeah, I'm just looking how can I control money and not pay for it at this point?
Yeah. Sometimes like when you think about it, we're almost in the game of, they have this term financier, right? We're actually in the business of contracts, where if we sign up the right contracts, i.e. debt or seller financing, that's really what we're good at. So, yes, we're looking at real estate, that's the actual asset. But if you guys are watching and me for myself watching what Cody's doing, the structuring of contracts with sellers and lenders. That is really the value creation that you're doing to generate the money you need for your business.
Right? Absolutely. Well, do you have anything else you want to chat about today? We're at the 30-minute mark, which you usually got to jump off.
Let's see. No, I guess the only one other thing that I would touch on, Flavio, when we were talking about the sewer thing. So Cody and I are both agents. I think Cody only uses his license specifically for transacting his own deals. I use mine for my own deals, but for me, that's active income coming in. So for me to get increase my reserves, or if I want to buy a new property, I can take this active income and put it into more properties. Or like Flavio was talking about. If I did have a sewer thing come up, I can go do more deals on the agent side, take that, and then pay off the this large expense it comes up.
Yeah. I don't have any active income, so other than my $100 a month from coaching gymnastics.
Yep.
So I we'll see. I'm looking, well, I am not just looking. I'm getting my MLO right now. And the reason I'm doing that is because there's been many deals with different lenders where I've had to give them ideas on how to get a deal closed conventionally,
Right.
workarounds. I'm like, if I'm doing this, why am I not just helping people and having the creative aspect to it? I I can find a way to play within all the rules and get less conventional people financed. So doing that,
Yeah.
that might be some active income. Then I don't have to just wait for the cash flow to build.
Well, that's what you're describing. I actually just got a new guy on my team. He has his real estate license and he's mortgage license as well.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, my a couple years ago, what I was thinking was like, as I was thinking about W-2 to freedom, the goal would be to effectively get somebody into the program that would just be plug and play. So, for example, my thought was if I had an insurance company, a lending company, a brokerage, and a life insurance company, right? Between all four of those, I can help that person, bring them deals, structure it to where they make money, and then I make money. So, as you get your mortgage license, it'd be interesting to where you could do the exact same thing. You know, say where you find this amazing property, and right now it doesn't make sense for your portfolio. You could then go take it to a friend, a family member, or somebody else and say, hey, this is exactly the property I would buy if it fit my portfolio. But since it doesn't, I recommend you buy it. Here's how I would structure it. And then you would say, hey, you put in this much money, you're going to get this much cash on cash, whatever metric that they're looking for. And then on that one, you'd get double paydays, right? You get the agent commission, the lender commission, which you deserve because you're generating value for that client.
And there are rules on that, by the way.
Right.
But yeah, I get what you're saying.
There's a bunch more disclosures, right? On how you do it.
So yeah, I'm looking at that. I started the course. It's 22 hours of work. So I'm going to be working on that after this call. But hopefully I can make something out of that because I'm tired of giving all these ideas out and then not getting paid for it.
Oh man, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like you have to like sometimes this will happen, and I'm sure you have the same thing. It's like, well, tell me what the actual rule is. And then I can give you the ideas on how we can work around it, right? Because like in their mind, it's like it has to fit in the box. And I'm like, well, where's the box? Can you get in from the top? Can you get in from the side, from the bottom? Right? You do the exact same thing, because both of us are like, we're going to solve this problem. It's going to be with you or somebody else. So let's try to figure it out. And then at the end of the day, you're like, gosh, I could do that myself. So once you get your license, I'd love to do whether we could do this on the agent side, I could do the agent side, you could do it on the lender side. And we could talk about here's how we helped the client, here's how much money that we generated, and here's how much the client's going to make. That'd be like a great real world example. Or we could do from the audience, they could bring one and we could talk about how we would structure it or something like that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Can help architect people's deals and give them
Right.
ideas. So with that, I think we will call today a wrap and